Taking pictures of cheese is the worst. It's really hard to make it look good. I think a lot of our Instagram photos look really bad, which is fine because it's Instagram. I'm Martha Sarfaty, and I'm gonna teach you how to make blue cheese ice cream today. The cheese that we're gonna use is a French goat's milk cheese called Bleu de Chèvre. So we're gonna start out by measuring out 1.5 cups of whole milk and 1.5 cups of heavy cream. So I'm gonna add the milk and the cream to a heavy bottom saucepan. We're gonna add to that a vanilla bean. You wanna hold the bean flat against a cutting board and make a slit through the first half of the pod all the way down. And you can use the blunt side of your knife to scrape the beans from the inside of the pod. And we're just gonna add them to the saucepan. And then we're gonna put the whole pod in as well. This guy is gonna go onto the stove, low heat, about 20 minutes. So while that milk is heating, we're gonna start the custard base. So we're gonna use 4 egg yolks. Separate some eggs. The whites you don't use. I usually save the egg whites and make meringues later, but that's because I'm crazy. We're gonna add 1/2 cup of just plain granulated sugar, and we're gonna start whisking them up. And you want them to be what it's often called in recipes and in cookbooks, pale ribbons. So it's gonna get really lightened and really creamy looking and almost be back to a liquid form. So you can see it's like starting to come together. It's much smoother. That's looking pretty good. So you're gonna set that aside and just let the milk come up to temp. You want it to come to like just under a simmer. Let it go until you just start to see bubbles forming around the edge of the pot. So it's pretty much come up to the right temperature now. So I'm gonna turn it off the heat. So what you have to do is really slowly heat up the eggs using the hot milk. I'm gonna use just a small little cup. Pour just a little bit of cream in at a time and stir that into it. And you want to do about 1/2 cup total of the hot milk into the eggs. So now what you have is this super eggy mixture of hot milk that is not going to curdle or cook up when we put it back on the heat. So then we're going to add that back into the milk. And again, just kind of like slowly, a little bit at a time. And then we're gonna put this back on the heat at super low and let it cook until it starts to thicken up a little bit. What you're looking for is it to draw like a really clean, well-defined line if you draw your finger through it. But it's definitely at the right consistency now. So I'm gonna take it off the heat. We're gonna measure out 100 grams of this cheese, which your cheesemonger can do for you. We're just gonna cut it up into a couple smaller chunks, and we're gonna add it to this fine mesh strainer. We're gonna pour the hot custard over it. It's gonna melt the cheese in, and it's going to keep out all of the actual spores of mold that are in the cheese and strain out any of the curdled or eggy bits from the custard. And I kind of like dip it down back into the custard to get it to melt further. So most of what's left in this strainer is like bits that were closer to the rind. They're gonna be much drier, and then you can see like the little spores of blue. A bowl of ice. Make an ice bath for this. And the ice is super frozen. I'm gonna add this to the ice bath, which will help it cool down a lot faster. And I'm gonna put that in the fridge. Wait for that to cool down a little bit. And so this is pretty simple home ice cream machine. This is the freezer bowl. You should keep in the freezer for at least 24 hours before you want to use it. Any kitchen supply store is going to have some sort of ice cream maker. And take this cold custard, like a half hour I think it was in there. You just pour the custard into the top. It's going to take about 15 to 20 minutes for it to get to a soft serve consistency. It's pretty awesome. It's like the best soft serve ice cream you'll ever have. Ice cream magic. I'm gonna transfer it to a bowl that can withstand being in the freezer. To prevent freezer burn, take some wax paper and sort of put it right up against the surface of the ice cream. pop it in the freezer. To get to the texture and consistency of grocery store ice cream, it's gonna need to freeze for about another 4 hours. You're left with all of this ice cream in the bowl that you can eat right away. And that's the best part, because that's for whoever made it. It's pretty blue cheesy. It's awesome. That's pretty much it.